I never imagined a single choice could flip my entire life upside down. But it happened. My boss, stern, intimidating, untouchable, was about to become something else entirely. Something personal. Something that no one could have expected, least of all me. It started on a late Friday evening. The office was silent, lights dimmed except for the faint glow of my laptop screen. Everyone else had left hours ago, leaving me alone with deadlines, paperwork, and a creeping sense of exhaustion. I leaned back in my chair and sighed, rubbing my temples, when a soft knock at the office door startled me. "Come in," I called, though my voice was tired, wary. To my surprise, it was her, my boss. Sharp blazer, heels clicking softly against the polished floor, hair perfectly in place, expression unreadable. She held a small box in her hands. "I need your help," she said. There was an edge in her tone I had never heard before, less professional, more personal. My curiosity piqued. "What kind of help?" I asked cautiously, setting aside my papers. She hesitated, eyes darting around as if worried someone else might see. Then, slowly, she placed the box on my desk. "This is something I've never shared with anyone. And I need someone I trust to help me." I leaned closer, heart pounding. The box was small, delicate, and strangely intimate. Inside, neatly folded and arranged, were clothes, skirts, blouses, stockings, and heels. Not just casual clothes, feminine, stylish, and undeniably seductive. "Your clothes?" I stammered, confused. "Why would you need me to?" She cut me off, voice lower now, trembling slightly. "Not mine, not exactly. I need you to help me become someone else. Someone different." I blinked, mind spinning. Different how? Her eyes locked on mine, vulnerability and desire flickering across her usually stoic face. "I want to be like you. To live as you. Just for a while." 1,000 thoughts collided in my head. Professional boundaries, ethics, sheer absurdity, and then, a shocking, undeniable thrill. The idea was impossible, reckless, and scandalous, but it stirred something deep inside me I couldn't ignore. You want me to turn you into me?" I whispered, barely daring to say it out loud. She nodded, lips parted, eyes blazing with anticipation and something darker, excitement. "Yes. I need to know what it's like to be someone else. To be me. But I want you to guide me." My pulse thundered. This wasn't just a professional dilemma, it was a dangerous, intoxicating invitation. A challenge. And deep down, a part of me wanted nothing more than to accept. "All right," I said finally, voice trembling but firm. "If we do this, it's going to change everything." Her smile was slow, triumphant, and terrifying. "I know. That's why I chose you." That moment, in the dim glow of the office, everything shifted. The professional boundaries that had defined our relationship evaporated. Rules, decorum, and caution no longer applied. I was about to transform my boss, untouchable, demanding, unshakable, into something entirely different, my girlfriend, my experiment, my secret. I reached for the box, hands shaking slightly. Each piece of clothing felt heavy with possibility, each fabric a key to the transformation ahead. She watched me closely, anticipation radiating from her, and I realized this wasn't just about clothes. It was about power, identity, and intimacy. By the time we left the office hours later, both of us were nervous, excited, and trembling with the unspoken thrill of what was about to happen. That night, I wouldn't just be guiding a transformation. I would be stepping into a world of desire, control, and temptation I had never dared imagine, and my boss would be my willing participant. The first step into her new identity began with a simple slip of fabric, and the moment it touched her, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. The days following that night felt like living in two different worlds simultaneously. During the day, she remained my boss, the same commanding presence, the same sharp gaze, the same no-nonsense attitude I had always known. But the night we began the transformation experiment, everything changed. I could see it in the way she lingered longer than necessary in the office, in the subtle adjustments she made when I guided her, in the softening of her expression when she tried on a skirt or blouse. At first, I tried to compartmentalize. Keep work and the experiment separate. But it was impossible. Every glance she gave me, every subtle touch while asking a question, carried an intimacy that had never existed before. My mind raced during meetings, imagining her in silk blouses, stockings, and heels, the clothes she wore privately under my guidance. My focus slipped, and emails that should have been answered in minutes went unanswered for hours. The distraction was intoxicating. She, too, was adjusting. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was psychological. I noticed tiny changes, the way she tilted her head when listening, the softening of her voice in private, the way her movements became more graceful. She walked differently, carried herself differently, and every subtle adjustment felt like a silent admission. She was becoming someone else, someone closer to me, someone I could guide, shape, and influence. Our interactions became a dangerous dance. In the office, she remained professional, occasionally giving me a glance that lingered just a moment too long. After hours, the dynamic shifted. The experiment became more intimate, more daring. I found myself slipping into the role of teacher, mentor, and confidant simultaneously. Each session, each moment alone, intensified the bond and the tension between us. One evening, as we reviewed reports in my apartment, she hesitated near the closet where her transformation outfits were kept. Her fingers hovered over a silk blouse, eyes wide with anticipation. "Are you ready?" I asked, voice low, steady, but with an undertone of excitement. She nodded, lips parted, a shiver running down her spine. I think so." The process began slowly. I helped her into the outfit, smoothing fabric over her shoulders, adjusting the skirt to sit just right. She moved tentatively at first, testing the heels, experimenting with the posture I had taught her. Each step was hesitant, fragile, yet electrifying. When she finally looked into the mirror, her eyes widened, and I could see awe, disbelief, and something deeper, a spark of self-discovery. She touched her cheeks, lips, and hair, examining the reflection as though seeing herself for the first time. "You look amazing," I whispered, though the words barely captured the mixture of pride and desire I felt. Her cheeks flushed. "I feel different. Strange. But good." That night, our roles blurred further. The professional boundaries we had always maintained dissolved, replaced by a mixture of curiosity, trust, and desire. Every movement, glance, and word carried double meaning. The transformation was no longer just about clothing, it was about connection, power, intimacy, and mutual exploration. At work, the disruption was subtle but undeniable. I found myself distracted, imagining her in different outfits, wondering how she would move, speak, and react. Every phone call, every meeting, carried a hidden layer of tension. Colleagues noticed a subtle shift in our interactions, a new energy that had not existed before. Even outside the office, the experiment affected my thoughts, my habits, and my desires. I caught myself daydreaming during lunch breaks, imagining her trying on a new outfit, adjusting her makeup, or practicing her posture in secret. The thrill of possibility consumed me, blurring the line between personal curiosity and professional responsibility. And yet, with every session, every experiment, I noticed her transformation deepening. Confidence emerged, subtle and intoxicating. She began to embrace the persona we were creating together, testing boundaries, experimenting with gestures, and even initiating playful moments. The power dynamic shifted gradually. What began as guidance and instruction became collaboration, mutual exploration, and shared exhilaration. By the end of the week, the office itself felt different. I couldn't walk past her without a jolt of anticipation. Every conversation carried hidden tension. Every glance felt loaded with unspoken understanding. The transformation was no longer private, it had seeped into our daily lives, reshaping work, home, and our perceptions of each other. And in the quiet moments, when the office lights dimmed and the streets outside were empty, I realized the truth. We weren't just experimenting with clothes, makeup, or posture. We were experimenting with identity, desire, and intimacy. Every session brought us closer, deeper, and more entangled in a world we had never dared to explore before, a world that was intoxicating, thrilling, and utterly irreversible. The office door closed behind us, leaving only the hum of the night and the faint glow of the desk lamp. We had crossed the line from casual experimentation into something more intimate, more dangerous, and more thrilling than either of us had anticipated. I could feel her hesitation and curiosity in equal measure, and it excited me in ways I had never imagined. "Tonight," I whispered, "we try everything. Full transformation." Her eyes widened, lips parted, and I saw the spark, the one that had first captivated me when she asked for my help. Slowly, she nodded, a mixture of excitement and nervousness radiating from her every movement. We started with the clothes. I handed her a delicate blouse, soft to the touch, paired with a skirt that flowed elegantly. She hesitated for just a moment, then slipped into the outfit under my guidance. Her posture was stiff at first, awkward, but every adjustment brought a subtle grace that took my breath away. Next came the shoes, heels that elevated not just her height but her presence. I watched as she tentatively took her first steps, stumbling slightly, then finding balance. Her laughter filled the room, light, musical, and intoxicating. And then the makeup. She allowed me to trace the contours of her face, to shade her eyes, highlight her cheekbones, and apply color to her lips. Every brushstroke transformed her further, creating someone familiar yet entirely new. I couldn't look away, every detail fascinated me, every change thrilled me, and every reaction from her made my pulse race. You look incredible," I murmured, unable to hide my admiration. She turned toward the mirror, eyes wide, cheeks flushed. I don't even recognize myself," she whispered. "But I feel good. Powerful. Sexy. Strange, but right." The moment was electric. Something shifted between us, a tension that had been simmering under the surface now fully ignited. I could feel it in every glance, every subtle movement, every breath we took together. We spent hours experimenting, different outfits, hairstyles, makeup variations. Each combination revealed something new about her, about us, and about the boundaries we were willing to explore. She began initiating small experiments herself, adjusting her posture, practicing her voice, and trying new styles without my prompting. The psychological transformation was as profound as the physical. She grew bolder, more confident, and increasingly comfortable in her new identity. She began to explore gestures, expressions, and movements that were completely foreign to her, yet they fit naturally, as if they had been waiting inside her all along. I guided her, yes, but it was a collaboration now. The thrill of secrecy, the intimacy of our shared exploration, and the intensity of the experience created a bond neither of us could ignore. Every session was a mixture of instruction, playfulness, and temptation, a private world where roles, power, and identity intertwined in ways I had never imagined possible. By the end of the week, the transformation had reached a tipping point. She walked with grace, spoke with soft confidence, and carried herself in a way that made my heart race. Our interactions outside the closet, or our private studio, as I began to think of it, were now charged with an electric tension, a shared secret that bound us together in ways far beyond clothing or makeup. And still, she asked for more. More guidance, more experimentation, more transformation. Each request pulled us deeper into this world, blurring the lines between professional and personal, desire and guidance, curiosity and intimacy. I realized, as I watched her practice in front of the mirror, that we were no longer just playing with appearances. We were exploring identity, power, and desire. We were stepping into uncharted territory, together, and every moment of it was thrilling, dangerous, and utterly irresistible. The private experiments weren't just about her becoming someone new. They were about discovering the intensity of trust, the vulnerability of transformation, and the exhilaration of shared secrets. By the time I finally allowed her to rest, both of us were breathless, not just from the physical exertion, but from the emotional depth, tension, and intimacy that had unfolded in a single night. That night, as I left her to reflect in front of the mirror, I realized something important. The transformation had become more than a game, more than an experiment. It had become a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and desire that neither of us could turn back from. The weekend arrived with a mixture of excitement and nerves. For the first time, she would step outside the privacy of our experiments and into the real world, fully transformed. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. All those private lessons, all those secret hours of clothing, makeup, and posture practice would now meet public scrutiny. She stood in front of the mirror, fully dressed, heels clicking lightly as she tested her balance. The skirt hugged her hips just right, the blouse shimmered elegantly under the soft light, and her hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders. Her makeup was flawless, highlighting features that were suddenly both familiar and mesmerizingly new. "You're ready," I said softly, trying to keep my own anxiety in check. She nodded, lips parted, eyes reflecting a mix of excitement and fear. I hope I am." The drive to the restaurant was quiet, each of us lost in thought. The streets were busy, filled with strangers who had no idea of the transformation unfolding in the car. I could feel her tension, her grip on the seat tightening with every passing block. But I also sensed her growing confidence, the same subtle grace we had nurtured in private, ready to face the world. When we arrived, the restaurant seemed suddenly overwhelming. Conversations buzzed around us, servers moved briskly, and curious eyes occasionally glanced our way. She straightened her back, lifted her chin, and stepped forward, heels clicking with assurance. I could feel the collective energy shift around her, people noticing, subtly reacting, drawn to her presence without even realizing why. The first confrontation came sooner than expected. A colleague from work, someone who had known her only in her authoritative, professional persona, approached our table. Her eyes widened, disbelief flashing across her face. "Wait, is that," she began, but words failed her as she took in the fully transformed figure before her. I glanced at my boss, no, my girlfriend now, in this moment, and saw her own apprehension mirrored in the wide eyes and tentative smile she offered. "Yes," she said softly, voice smooth, poised, and confident. "It's me." The room seemed to shift around us. Some stared, others whispered, and a few smiled openly. But she held herself with elegance, dignity, and a quiet defiance that commanded respect even amidst shock. As the evening progressed, the tension fluctuated between exhilarating and nerve-wracking. Servers complimented her subtly, strangers offered small smiles, and friends marveled at the transformation without fully understanding it. Every interaction reinforced the lesson we had been learning in private: confidence was more powerful than fear, and authenticity radiated far beyond private walls. But then came the moment I had both anticipated and dreaded, a private confrontation with someone who knew her intimately in her old life. Her ex-partner, arriving unexpectedly, froze mid-step upon seeing her. Shock, disbelief, and a hint of admiration flickered across his face. "Is this really you?" he stammered, voice uncertain. She met his gaze without flinching. "Yes. This is me. And I'm not the same person you knew." The tension was palpable. Eyes on us, hearts pounding, and for a moment, the entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. But instead of fear, she exuded control. Every gesture, every glance, every syllable of her voice communicated that she was fully in command of herself, of her identity, and of the situation. I realized in that moment that the transformation had gone far beyond clothing and makeup. It was psychological, emotional, and relational. She had embraced a new persona with courage, grace, and empowerment. The woman before me was no longer my boss in the old sense, she was something entirely new, confident, bold, and unapologetically herself. By the end of the night, the confrontation dissolved into admiration and acceptance. Colleagues, friends, and strangers alike had witnessed a powerful demonstration of self-transformation and confidence. The evening wasn't just about her appearance, it was about agency, choice, and the courage to embrace change. On the drive home, silence filled the car, not awkward, but reflective. Her hand brushed mine subtly, a gentle acknowledgement of shared triumph. You did it," I whispered, voice barely audible. She smiled, leaning slightly closer. "We did it," she corrected softly. "Together." That night, back at home, the transformation reached its emotional peak. Private boundaries had been tested, public perceptions had been challenged, and the bond between us had solidified into something unbreakable. She had stepped into a world of exposure and scrutiny, and emerged stronger, braver, and utterly herself. As I watched her relax in the soft glow of the living room, I realized the truth: transformation wasn't just about appearances. It was about courage, trust, intimacy, and the exhilaration of embracing identity fully, without fear or apology. The experiment, the risk, the shared secret, it had changed everything. And for the first time, I knew with certainty, neither of us would ever be the same again.